Tonight, a town hall to deal with increasing hate incidents as Thornhill's Jewish community meets with police.
That is the challenge. How do we overcome hate?
The plan to protect vulnerable communities as the war in the Middle East continues to spur anti-Semitic and Islamophobic attacks.
The costs to the Ontario taxpayers are substantially more for exactly the same service.
Plus, private practice problem. A CBC News investigation finds a Toronto for-profit clinic gets more money than Ontario hospitals to perform the same OHIP-covered surgeries.
It'll really help my business, I think.
And the business boost from beer, why some retailers in Ontario are cheersing the Ford government as it tries to end its contract with the beer store. Hey, good evening. I'm Chris Glover. We're beginning tonight in Thornhill, where the Jewish community met with York Regional Police. The meeting being held as the war in the Middle East continues to spur an alarming rise of reported anti-Semitic and Islamophobic hate crimes right across the GTA. Our Anam Khan was at the meeting tonight. Anam.
Chris, people in the local Jewish community who turned out tonight say they feel targeted and traumatized. So they came here to ask questions of local leaders and the police. And they want to get answers of what their rights are and what the law is. And especially when it comes to boycotts, harassment, and understanding what constitutes a hate crime. And the event was organized by B'nai B'rith.
There's a tremendous amount of anxiety. People feel targeted as Jews, whether it's on university campuses, on their homes, on the streets. And they're looking for answers. There was a woman just tonight walked up to myself and Chief McSween of YRP, and she showed an image of a mezuzah. Jews put these religious ornaments on our doorposts to keep us safe. And that scroll was burnt to a crisp.
The event tonight was organized by the Jewish community for concerns coming from the Jewish community. But police say a rise in hate crimes is being reported by the local Muslim community too. And I asked the National Council of Canadian Muslims what they're experiencing.
After October 7th, we have noticed that we're getting approximately about 8 calls a day. And these include incidents such as Muslim women wearing the hijab who have been spat on in public places or in their places of work. We're seeing individuals who are wearing the keffiyehs or flying Palestinian flags asked to remove them.
At the town hall tonight, York Police say they're committed to protecting all their community members by doing things like increasing their police presence, especially at places of worship.
We know that police visibility is a crime prevention tool. So when people see our cruisers or when they see officers around, it has an impact on crime, right? Because crime will take itself elsewhere.
York Police telling people at the town hall tonight that since Hamas's attack on October 7th, they've spent 2,300 hours policing hate in the community. And they're not done yet. They will continue to police the issue. Chris?
Anam Khan reporting for us in Thornhill tonight. An update now to an incident we first told you about last night. Toronto police have charged 3 people accused of interrupting the Scotiabank Giller Prize ceremony with an anti-Israel protest.
Sarah Bernstein, Study for Obedience.
Investigators allege 3 people in their mid-20s used forged documents to gain access to the invitation-only event at the Four Seasons Hotel. All 3 face charges of obstructing property and using forged documents. Over the course of the evening, 2 waves of protesters hopped on stage, and the accused were arrested on scene. They are due back in court in January. The driver of the vehicle involved in a fatal hit and run this morning has been found. Police say it's thanks to tips from the public. Now, no charges have been laid as of yet, but the driver is alleged to have struck a man sleeping on the sidewalk in the St. Lawrence Market area.
And it mounted the curb on the east side, striking an individual who's laying on the ground. That individual was dragged for a short distance and left there as the driver then fled the scene in an unknown direction.
Police say this all happened just after 6:30 this morning at the intersection of Wellington and Scott Street. The 57-year-old man who was struck was rushed to hospital for treatment, but he died a short time later. It is the second fatal collision between a vehicle and a pedestrian in Toronto this week. Yesterday, a 53-year-old man was killed when he was struck by a dump truck at Dufferin and Eglinton. A significant update to tell you about out of Scarborough as well tonight. Fire officials say they have found a body following that home explosion near Lawrence and Morningside on Sunday.
I can update this morning that we have located a deceased body inside the structure. Obviously, the investigation is ongoing. Certainly, my condolences and thoughts go out to the family and friends of those impacted and all of the residents around the scene. I know it's been very trying on everyone.
Now, firefighters were called to the home on Kitchener Road at around 11:30 a.m. on Sunday. The explosion and ensuing fire destroyed the home, and Fire Chief Matthew Pegg says work is being done to identify the body. The cause of the explosion and the fire itself are all still under investigation. Now to a major influx of cash coming to Toronto to deal with the city's housing supply crunch. Today, the Deputy Prime Minister was here to announce more than $1 billion federal dollars will help construct around 2,500 rental housing units. As Dale Manukduk shows us, that's a fraction of the rental homes Toronto says it needs to build.
Construction noise bore down on Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland as she announced $1.2 billion in low-interest loans to build over 2,600 new rental homes in Toronto. Interruptions she was okay making space for.
I am so grateful to the skilled tradespeople who are building the homes.
The financing is the latest move from the government to build more rental housing.
We lifted the GST on purpose-built rental, and I was just delighted to hear from the builders here that is changing the financial equation, and they are looking more closely at building rental.
The money is going to 7 projects, most of which are already under construction. Times Group, who is building the project at 55 Broadway Avenue, is receiving $165 million of the money committed. It also plans to build rental units along Yonge Street at Davisville, Finch, and Steeles.
The announcement today makes us more confident and certain that those projects will have funding so that we can continue building more affordable housing elsewhere in the GTA.
The loans are being given out through the Federal Rental Construction Financing Initiative. The feds have made $25 billion available through the RCFI, making rental housing more attractive for builders.
It'll be not less competitive, it'll be more available, is what I would say, to all the developers, bigger and maybe medium size, that want access to the RCFI funds.
To access the financing, builders must commit to making 30% of units affordable. The benefits to renters could be years away.
There are very few short-term fixes. This has been a problem that's built up over decades, and it's going to now take years to unwind and make housing more affordable.
Last week, Toronto Council approved an ambitious plan to build 65,000 rental homes. It would cost over $30 billion and require provincial and federal funding. While there was no commitment today on that, Mayor Olivia Chow says,
"Well, didn't say no means there's always hope."
Freeland said housing will be a part of next week's economic statement. Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Toronto.
All right, so our skyline may be changing in the years to come, but right now this is a live look of the city of Toronto, and 4 degrees right now, clear skies as well. Victor Paolo is joining us with a first look at the weather forecast. Hey there, Victor.
Chris, hope you're having yourself a great evening. Couple of things to look forward to when it comes to headlines. We do have some warmer days and warmer nights in store for the GTA, as well as we do have some flurries on our way when it comes to Friday. And it will be a touch of a wet weekend, but not too wet after that rain passes through on Friday. Now, when it comes to watches and warnings in the surrounding region, just one thing I'd like to note, we are experiencing some severe winds, and those severe winds are going to last all the way through to about Thursday when it comes to midnight. But once all that's said and done, should be in the clear. Now, when it comes to tomorrow morning and my little Emmy and your little ones are getting ready, it's going to be 5 degrees, feeling closer to 2 degrees. Now, the secret to the weather when it comes to tomorrow and getting prepared for it, when it starts at 5 degrees, feeling like 2, high of 11 degrees, is layers. That's going to be the big secret to get through the day. Gets a little bit warm, you can remove some layers, and once it gets back to being chilly, throw them right back on. We're expecting 11s on Wednesday all the way through to Friday, but one thing to note, that 1 degree you do see here can bring a potential chance of flurries. Stay tuned to Chris and I to see what the rest of your 3 and 7 day forecast looks like.
That's right, and you'll be back in just a few minutes. Thanks, Victor. Now to a story about for-profit clinics and provincial healthcare dollars. CBC Toronto has learned the Ford government pays a Toronto clinic more than it pays hospitals to perform the same OHIP-covered surgeries. The revelations are raising concerns, especially as the government plans to do more surgeries outside of hospitals. Our senior reporter at Queen's Park, Mike Crawley, has the exclusive details.
Don Mills Surgical Unit is a private, for-profit clinic in Toronto. It's doing a few thousand outpatient surgeries a year, covered by OHIP, funded by Ontario taxpayers. Documents obtained by CBC News show this clinic is funded more generously than Ontario hospitals. For each cataract surgery, the province provides hospitals with a little over $500. Don Mills Surgical Unit gets more than $1,200. For an arthroscopic knee surgery, hospitals are funded roughly $1,300 to $1,700 each. The clinic's funding rate, more than $4,000 per surgery.
The costs to the Ontario taxpayers are substantially more for exactly the same service. And so there's no justification for this that I can possibly think of.
The Health Ministry says it contracted the clinic and paid a premium to tackle the backlog of surgeries triggered by the pandemic.
It's really about people having access and making sure that they're not sitting on wait lists, they're not having to wait at home, they're not off work.
Don Mills Surgical Unit is part of ClearPoint Health, the largest chain of private surgical clinics in Canada. ClearPoint's newest lobbyist in Ontario, the former Health Minister, Christine Elliott. Her official lobbying goal, registered with the province, getting the government to increase base funding to the company. During Elliott's time as minister, provincial spending on surgeries at Don Mills increased sharply. It was running at $1.3 million per year, then quadrupled.
The main rationale that the government has used to argue for greater for-profit delivery simply doesn't pass the sniff test.
ClearPoint Health declined CBC's request for an interview. In a statement, a company official said Don Mills Surgical operates within funding levels assigned by the province to reduce wait times.
If there are shareholders in this that are not part of the healthcare delivery team, that is clearly taking money out of the system.
The Ford government plans to expand the number and type of surgeries done outside hospitals, including hip and knee replacements, as early as next year. How much of that will go to for-profit clinics and how much they'd be paid remains to be seen. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
Meanwhile, the Ford government introducing new legislation today to crack down on bad employers, updating the Employment Standards Act.
Ontario's restaurant and service industry is made up of more than 400,000 men and women, more than 6% of the province's workforce. But often, these same people, the ones who do so much to make sure we have a good time when we're out, are falling behind through no fault of their own.
If passed, the legislation will ban unpaid trial shifts, and it would also stop employers from docking a worker's pay in instances of dine and dash or gas and dash. As well, employees will be able to choose how they receive their tips. Now to the troubling trend of spiking auto thefts in Ontario, and new data from the nonprofit Equité Association found a historical high last year. The group also releasing its ranking of the 10 most stolen vehicles in 2022. SUVs and pickup truck models making up a good chunk of the top 10. Targeted, the group says, due to a strong demand by criminal groups overseas.
Utility of the vehicle, the countries that they're going to, the train that they're being driven on, it's what the demand is, and that's what's driving not only the high retail value once the organized crime groups sell them overseas, but if they're using them for their own use, they're a good vehicle to be able to maneuver and get around the various trains.
All right, so let's look at the numbers here together. The Honda CR-V leading the top 10 list, and the rest of the top 5 are SUV and truck models, also with more than 1,000 thefts logged last year. The Equité Association adds the chance of recovery in most cases is slim, as many stolen vehicles end up shipped out of Canada, while others are sold in parts.
You know, we feel we're the best at the job. We've been doing it for decades.
Coming up, is the beer store's near monopoly on the sale of suds in Ontario about to end? Why some retailers hope so. Welcome back. Ontario could be moving closer to seeing beer sales in corner stores. It's something that isn't allowed right now due to a deal with the owners of the beer store, but reports suggest the Ford government may soon end that agreement. Lorenda Redekop has that story.
This convenience store owner would like to be restocking his fridge with beer.
Since COVID, everything is really hard. It'll really help my business, I think.
Right now, the beer store sells most of the beer in the province. Sales are allowed in LCBOs and a maximum of 450 grocery stores. But the maximum size is a 6-pack, no cases of beer. A master framework agreement from 2015 laid out the rules between the province and the 3 big brewers that make up the beer store. It runs until the end of 2025. But if the government doesn't want to renew, it has to let the owners know 2 years in advance. If this were to happen, it wouldn't come as a surprise. Doug Ford promised it in his first term.
We are going to have beer in the corner stores and retail stores. We're negotiating hard.
Recently, the finance minister was asked for an update.
We're continuing to have very serious discussions with the key players, and when we have news on the booze, we'll be sure to tell you.
The minister's spokesperson released a statement saying the government supports meaningful change to alcohol sales in Ontario. It mentions the expansion for restaurants and bars, allowing them to sell alcohol with takeout. And it says they look forward to continuing to deliver choice for Ontarians and new opportunities for businesses.
We've had the discussions over and over and over, and I guess the time has come, and let's get moving.
The organization representing convenience stores argues small stores can sell beer in other provinces and wants the near monopoly on sales here to end.
The beer stores is a 1927 archaic retailing model, and no one can understand why they have the control of beer sales in Ontario.
The beer store has 7,000 unionized workers. The union has also heard the rumors and wants to know for sure.
We're trying to meet with the government to hear with our own ears, what is going to happen. If you know what's happened, please let me know.
He's feeling especially desperate given that they start bargaining for a new contract next Monday.
Our members are at their wits' end. The unknown for anybody is horrible, and nobody knows. We have no answers for them. We wish we did.
Given the beer store framework agreement, we should know something by the end of December. The 3 brewing companies who own the beer store did not respond to a request for comment. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
To Windsor now, and closing arguments today in Nathaniel Veltman's murder trial. The 22-year-old is accused of killing 4 members of a Muslim family in London in 2021. Thomas Dagla is following the trial for us.
For members of the Muslim community who came to court Tuesday, it's been a long 2.5-year wait for this moment. The final chapter in the murder-terror trial of the man who ran over the Afzal family with his truck in London, Ontario.
Hearing gruesome details has been very difficult. Seeing the family, hearing these things firsthand has also been very difficult, and we've been trying to support them as much as we can.
In closing arguments to the jury, the defense presented 22-year-old Nathaniel Veltman as a troubled young man. His lawyers insisting that confession to police he made hours after the attack should not be taken as an admission of guilt.
It was terrorism. I'm not gonna try to get a lighter sentence by saying it was just murder, not terrorism.
The defense says at that time, Veltman was still in a drug-fueled haze and dealing with several mental disorders. Nate Veltman had no time to deliberate the killings of the Afzal family, lawyer Christopher Hicks told the jury, suggesting they consider lesser charges of manslaughter or second-degree murder.
The penalties are a little bit different in terms of parole eligibility for second-degree murder, and there's more flexible sentencing for a manslaughter charge.
In court, the Crown called Veltman a terrorist, saying with the attack, the accused intended to send this message to Muslims: leave this country or you and your loved ones could be next. Prosecutors again showed the jury pictures from the crash site with a road sign flattened as Veltman drove full throttle.
Veltman doesn't dispute he deliberately ran over the Afzals with his truck. It will be up to the jury to decide what charges he's guilty of based on the evidence. The judge will first have to instruct the jury on how to come to a verdict. Thomas Dagla, CBC News, Toronto.
So kind of a chilly night tonight at 4 degrees, but there is a warm up around the corner. Let's get you back to Victor Paulo now for a look at our long-range forecast. Hey there, Victor.
Chris, hope you're having yourself a fantastic evening. Now, one thing we'd like to note, looking at the map of North America here, is we can see temperatures cooling from the west all the way through to the east. And that cooling of temperatures is bringing things back to a seasonal variety of temperatures. Nothing too hot, nothing too cold. As you do see Toronto here in single digits. But those single digits will be in our past once we get to tomorrow in the next couple of days, because we're expecting double digits not only for Wednesday, not only for Thursday, but for Friday as well. We're expecting highs of around 11 degrees Celsius. Now, taking a look at watches and warnings, as mentioned, we are expecting some severe wind to be blowing by, and that severe wind is going to last all the way through to about midnight on Thursday. So once we get past that severe wind, should be calmer winds and calmer breezes in our near future. Now, taking a look at the radar here to see a couple of things that we will be noting is it will be a cloudy overnight tonight, as you do notice, but that cloudy overnight is going to last till about, let's say, Wednesday morning. And once we get through to Wednesday afternoon and things clear up, it's going to be pretty nice. And that nice weather is what's going to be accompanied with those clear skies as well. Thursday night is going to be a lot more, Thursday night, correction, will be a lot more of a warmer night in comparison to the ones coming up. Because when it comes to Thursday, you see that cloud cover increasing back in the region. And that cloud cover, by the time it gets to Friday, is bringing in this system. And this system that's coming in, as you do see, has a mix of thunder showers, has a mix of rain, as well as you do see just coming right across our way is a chance of those flurries. That blue does mean snow. The pink means a mix of rain and snow. And as you do know, should the temperatures decide to drop just a little bit extra, that's going to be enough to turn that rain into flurries. You want to make sure you're prepared around your commute home. As you do see around 4 or 5 o'clock, we're expecting that to hit the area. Now, when it comes to tonight, what's the temperature going to be? Well, 3 degrees, feeling closer to 0, and you do see those clouds behind me, a chilly one. Now, when it comes to our 3 and 7 day forecast, it will be a beautiful 3 days ahead, but followed up by those 3 days, your Friday, Saturday, and Sunday is a chance of flurries, with those lows being so low and precipitation in the way. Hope you have a great rest of your evening, and over to you, Chris.
You too. Thank you, Victor. And that's it for us tonight. I'll be back with you tomorrow night at 11, and we'll see you then. But for now, let's leave you with some shots, some wonderful aerial shots for you. Our drone team took these tonight during the sunset. This is from High Park, late in the season for sure, but still you can see those fall colors are looking so vibrant. Have a great night, everyone, and we'll see you back here tomorrow night.